Okay, welcome today to the show. We've got Jamille Matt, hottest striker outside the Premier League at the moment. How you doing, Jamille?
Yeah, I'm not good, not good, not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and nice to be on with you boys.
Thank you, thank you. And you recovering from the game last night?
Yeah, weight is going at the minute, obviously with fixtures and stuff. They're coming thick and fast. So last night was actually a rearranged fixture. We were supposed to play a few weeks back, but the weather actually put that one postponed, not COVID. So
Okay.
yeah, we played last night and got a draw 0-0. Could have gone our way. We could have won it, probably won it, but take the point. It's not an easy place to go, Mansfield.
Yeah. So how did it feel like playing for Forest Green and like challenging for the title almost this year? Do you think about it a lot, or do you just take it a game at a time?
Literally just that. I think it's just taking a bit a game at a time. I think League Two is obviously a league I've played in for quite a number of years now, so
Yeah.
kind of know how it works. And ideally, you'd love to run away with the league. You'd love to run away with the title. But listen, it's like I said, there's teams coming to form at different times. So I think the teams that can hold their nerve, make the least mistakes, and just try and pick up points. Like on the road, like you said, and we'll be thereabouts towards the end of the season. So yeah, it's something I thrive on, to be honest, because I've had the experience in the league, so I kind of know how it's going to go. And we've got quite a young squad, but it's something I'm trying to pass on, that little bit of knowledge and a little bit of experience.
Some big teams in League Two, isn't there, as well? I think people forget, you've got a couple of teams in there that not long ago were playing in the Premier League.
Yeah, some massive teams, likes of Bolton, likes of Bradford,
Yeah.
teams like that massive clubs, like growing up, is teams like you said were in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're in our league now, they're in League Two now. So they're on an even playing field. So when you go on the pitch, you got a thing like that. I think if you think of them as being this Premier League team, then sometimes you can already be beaten before you even took the field. So yeah, it's good to play against these kind of teams. It's sometimes you want to experience playing against them with the fans, which obviously we haven't had this year, but it's still a good experience. And to put your wits against clubs like I said, you've seen the Premier League in the past, but we want to finish above them in the table, and that's our goal.
What's it been like this season playing without the fans?
Strange. It's like anything, football. You get so used to having the fans there, and they can sometimes dictate the tempo of a game with the way when they start chanting, the way they get themselves up. If you're obviously attacking, and they're behind you, it can put the other team under pressure. Home games, especially, obviously, if you've got the fans behind you. So it's definitely been strange, but it's like anything, you after a while you started to adapt to it. Now I think the tempo initially at the start of the season probably wasn't as high because of not having the fans in, and probably felt like maybe training games or kind of preseason games. But now you've kind of got used to not having the fans in and adapted. I think the tempo of the games are back to what they probably were, and yeah, listen, it's not the same. It's nothing we can do to affect that. But definitely want them back in as soon as possible. Hopefully next season that'll be the case.
And for yourself, you've played in the AFL for around about 10 years now. So when the fans come back in for you, it's going to be back to normal. How do you think it'll affect the younger players that have maybe just broken through now and have never really played in front of a big crowd? Do you think there'll be a lot of anxiety once crowds do come back into the stadium?
I can only speak from my kind of personal experience, and I think when I remember coming through as a young player or being younger, and I thrived off playing in front of a bigger crowd. And I think most of the players, I think they probably might be the same in terms of you've got this talent and something that you've worked hard and you worked in your craft, and you want to showcase it to everyone. So sometimes it's the stage and you've got the fans there. It's that stage to go and show what you can do.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the flip side to that. If you're not going to play unbelievable every game. So if maybe you're not having a great game, that's where the pressure then comes in of having the fans there. But I'd like to think, like I said, I can't speak for the squad that we've got. I think we've got a lot of talented players, and I think they'd thrive on having the fans back in and having that pressure to produce in front of them.
So, like, as a young player yourself, like, where did it all start? How did you grow this love for football?
Kind of just obviously grew up watching football, obviously on TV and whatever. Watching obviously Arsenal's the team I support. And like the first kind of memories are watching teams like Brazil. My dad obviously grew up in Jamaica, and my dad was like a massive Brazil fan. Because as you know, I can remember Jamaica going to the World Cup. They've only been to the World Cup once, and it was before that you supported Brazil or a team, the South American teams that play the best football, and that's probably where I kind of started watching football. But it's probably only until I came to England, I'll be honest, I started taking it really seriously, and just kind of playing with my friends. Really, that's where I think the love came from. It was just like having that time of you doing playtime at school, break time at school. I was always the one who was carrying a football, so I'd be like the ball provider. But yeah, just kind of playing with friends really, and they enjoyed it, and so did I, and it was something that I always wanted to work on, and something I always wanted to just in my spare time just play, and I think that's where my love came from.
How old were you when you came over from Jamaica?
I was 10 years old, so March 2000 came over, and yeah, it was obviously different culture, cold. Let me tell you that. Boy, when I got off that plane, wow.
And this is March, this is like we're leading to summer.
Yeah, it was mad. It was like I never owned a coat. I did not own a coat until I come to England. So it was like, wow, mom, I need to get me a coat quick time. But yeah, man, it was just like a different culture. But obviously, like language-wise, it's similar, you know. So that wasn't too bad. And like I said, the kind of thing that probably helped me settle in was like, so I went into junior school, and straight away I got into playing on the playground football and stuff with friends there and the kids there, and that kind of helped me settle in because I was probably one of the better players straight away getting into it, and you kind of get a little bit of who's the guy playing football? Do you know what I mean? It's weird how it works, but that obviously it's a way to kind of interact with people and make friends, and so yeah, that's kind of how it started really.
Okay. So when you were in Jamaica, you'd probably be around 8 years old when Robbie scored that header. Do you recall it at any time, or like what was the reaction when you was over there?
We were in. So you talking about the World Cup, yeah?
World Cup '98.
Yeah. So we were in school, and so Jamaica were playing. I think when they played Japan, classes got stopped. So stopped the classes. Everyone was in like. You were in your class, but like in a room with a TV, so watching the game or so like that. Yeah. And it's obviously like for Jamaica to make it to the World Cup first and foremost. And they got beat like 5-1 away with Argentina.
Yeah.
And I think it was Croatia lost to, but obviously both teams were really good teams at the time. I think Croatia finished third in that World Cup, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, then you've got like obviously they beat Japan. I remember they beat Japan 2-1. Yeah. And that was like the first win, so it's like a historic win for the country and for such a small country. And yeah, it was like a celebration for obviously everyone in the school. And if you're growing up, it was like names like Robbie Earl, like say Dion Burton, Dion Dublin. You know, like players like that, and even players like Ian Goodison. And funnily enough, when I first started for Fleetwood, I ended up playing against him, and I was almost in awe playing against him because for him, he wouldn't have known. But me growing up, I was watching him playing for Jamaica, and one of my heroes. So to play against him, and I'll say I got the better of him on that day because he probably was getting on a bit at the time, and I was this young lad full of energy and legs. So It was good kind of first experiences of football for me.
Okay.
How's football development in Jamaica? I don't know if you get a chance to go over there much now, and what family you have over there. But if you look at the likes of Raheem Sterling, one of the top players in world football from Jamaica, do you think that's an inspiration to the kids back over there?
Oh, massively. I think he actually, came from the same area that I grew up in. So Marvel is where the same kind of area I think his family came from. But yeah, he's a massive inspiration for people like myself, even though I'm older than him. It's to see what he's done and what he continues to do. And I think there is a lot of talent there. It's just getting the chance of showcasing that talent. There's obviously players that have come from, remember players like Ricardo Gardner who went to Bolton and had a great career there for years. So you've got the talent there. It's just sometimes getting the chance to come over and showcase that talent. But yeah, like I said, there's obviously the recent squad's been announced, and there's a lot of players who've got Jamaican heritage that have been in there. And my first memories, because Jamaica's obviously massive at athletics.
Yeah.
And in school, like kind of primary school, and you kind of have that, not even that choice, but it's kind of side by side. You've got football. So if you want to go into football, it's there. But athletics is probably the main thing that you kind of. At my school, there was definitely athletics. I used to train a couple of times a week, and on the weekends we'd go to Portmore and we'd run up the hills as like a fitness training kind of thing. So that was probably first thing really, athletics. I was quite into athletics, but then there's also decent coaches. There are some decent coaches because I'm same again at my school. We had quite a good setup, and the schools had like a good cup or whatever it was, where you'd play against some decent levels of school players. So I think there is good coaching out there, or decent coaching out there. Maybe not to the standard there is here, but listen, I'm not speaking from first-hand experience because I've not witnessed it recently. I'm talking back to when I was a kid. But from when I was younger, there was definitely a decent standard of coaching. And I think from that, for a small island, I think it produced quite a lot of players. And I think there'll be more players just need to get that opportunity to maybe develop in a bigger league, or in a more competitive league, so to speak. And if they can do that, then Jamaica will always be competitive in the national team.
I think it'd be nice as well that eventually maybe some of these superstars play for Jamaica rather than the countries that they've moved to when they were children. You know, when you look at the potential of what team Jamaica could have at the moment, there's no reason why they wouldn't be qualifying for every World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I think, like you said, you mentioned some of the players who have actually been eligible to play for the country, to play for Jamaica, and obviously the ones that have been called up recently. A few who I've actually played with as well. And you know, you think it's crazy how they've only qualified for one World Cup. So, you know, I'm guessing the next goal is obviously next year, 2022 World Cup. So yeah, it's the potential's there. And like you said, if we can continue to get the players to come out, turn out and play for the country, then that should be a regular of qualifying every 4 years.
Is it a target for yourself at all?
In terms of playing for the national team?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's something, obviously, like I said, I've dreamed of. It's something I've dreamed of since I was a kid. And it's obviously not something I can really control. But I've just got to perform on the pitch and hopefully catches the selector's eyes and I'll get a chance. But if not, it's not going to stop me from supporting. You know what I mean? I'm still proud of where I've come from, and yeah, I'll still support Jamaica no matter what.
You could have Jamille Matt with Mikel Antonio fighting years towards the next World Cup.
Got a good ring to it, now, ain't it? My middle name is Antonio as well, so Antonio up top.
So when you came over here, did you actually go to an academy at all, or you know?
No, I didn't. So that's kind of, you can look at it from two perspectives. I think I kind of like I said, I always played, just used to enjoy playing with my friends. And even though I think I came over, I think I was in year 5 when I came over, and I played just kind of. There used to be a lot. I remember there used to be a lot of five-a-side like street tournaments in my area, and there was a group of me and literally 4 of my friends from my school, and we'd go to all these tournaments. And I had so many, we had so many medals. We'd either always win or be second or whatever it is. We're always in top 2. But I never really played for a team, like a proper team. It was only when I went to senior school, there was only one other friend from my junior school that went to this school.
Yeah.
So, and he didn't play football. So it was like, right, I've got to make a new set of friends. And my best way of knowing to do that, like I said, football. So I always had my ball with me out on the playground. And there was a couple of lads that played for a local Sunday league team.
Yeah.
And they just asked me to come out for training. So I've gone out to train with them and really enjoyed it. And from there, I think it was like halfway through the season. It was been like close to December time, I think it was. Because my brother took me along, actually. At the time, my older brother took me. So I kind of played Sunday league all the way up through and say that team till I was 16, 17, I think I was. And then I went from there into, so a team I used to play against, half of their team played for Sutton Coldfield Town, who was a semi-professional team. So he played, a lot of those players played for their youth team.
Okay.
So the manager always knew I did well against their team, and he tried to, he signed me for their 17s.
Yeah.
So I went into their 17s, and from there into the youth team, from there into their first team.
Okay.
And then a couple of years in their first team, and then it was so a couple of years semi-professional, and then from there to Kidderminster, my first professional club, and then kind of Fleetwood, and there's your history from there.
How did it feel signing for your first professional club? How did that materialize, and what was the feeling with your family as well?
Oh, it was crazy, because I was at Sutton, and I'd heard about a bit of interest previously, and I could have gone a couple of times because I think they were like three or four divisions below conference at the time, and there was a bit of interest, and I could have gone to a few other clubs, but I waited out, and I went there initially and we played against Sutton Coldfield, played against Kidderminster in like a trial, in like a game, like a little friendly.
Yeah.
I scored in that game, and then a couple of days later they were like, right, come in for training. So I'm thinking, I'm going for a trial.
Yeah.
And to be fair to the manager, the first day he's pulled me in, he's gone, oh, it's not a trial, you're signing. So straight away that put my mind at ease. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then kind of that inferiority complex where I'm looking at the play, I'm like researching all the players now, because I'm like, oh, there's this player, there's that player.
Yeah.
He's been at Villa, he's been at Birmingham, he's been at, like, they've all been at these clubs. I've been at Sunday League, no disrespect to Coldfield Town and non-league.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to be good enough to stack up with these players. And first of all, obviously, I found it tough, especially fitness-wise. You're playing part-time to go into full-time, but it was kind of the end of that first season. I kind of done all right, got a couple of goals, and then probably the season after I started to kick on, and it was obviously like realizing a dream, because I probably didn't think when I got to 18, probably 19, 20, I thought I'm not going to get a chance to go professional. Thought I'd enjoy football and play part time, and while I studied and stuff like that. So it was a dream come true. And to be fair, family always just kind of left me to it to get on with it. So it was kind of down to me, and I've just kind of ran with it, really. They've always been really supportive, but they've just kind of gone, right, do what you need to do, and whatever you want to do, we'll back you with that. So that was always good.
Yeah.
How did you find the physical demands going from non-league to a professional team? I was speaking to Lee Novak last night. You mentioned when he went from Gateshead to Huddersfield in his first training session, he tried to spin him behind, and he was up against David Unsworth, and he just blocked him, and he thought, wow, I need to get in. This is a different level from what I'm used to.
Exactly that. Me being like a 21-year-old, I was like, I had like a late growth spurt, so I was always one of the tallest in my kind of age group, but probably wasn't as tall as I was. So I had a growth spurt, and I've gone like really tall. So straight away, it's like, right, you're a target man. Whereas I probably was used to just running in behind.
Yeah.
So similarly, I that's all I would think about. So, let me turn and spin and run in behind. And you had defenders as a defender called Mark Albright, who had a good football league career. So similar, obviously, like same name as the Leicester winger, but he's Mark Albright centre half. And every time I try and spin in behind him, body in front, or he just drop off, and I couldn't get my hand around it. Like, it was the players were just a little bit cleverer and a little bit sharper. But then it was just like a bit of coaching, and you do get used to that. Obviously, initially you're thinking, oh, why have they brought? I was almost thinking, why have they brought me in here? Like, I'm not good enough for this level. And within a couple of weeks, I kind of you start to see where you fit in, and you start getting stronger and fitter, and you start to do what you were able to do at the previous level.
Did you have any problems with injuries in your first couple of years? Because I know that the loading that your body goes under going from non-league to the pro game can be huge.
Yeah. To be honest, I was quite good injury wise. Never really picked. I had a few injuries probably before my time at Kidderminster. But at Kidderminster, I was quite lucky. I never really had anything. A couple of times I had little kind of twinges on my hamstrings, but that was, physio said, like, with the way I'd grown quite quickly, like my flexibility, I had to just improve that a little bit within my hamstring. So once I sorted that out, I was quite good injury wise, and in my career I've not been too bad with that. So that was quite. I think I was quite fortunate with that, really.
Do you think that your exposure to men's football in the non-league gave you a good platform and foundation to go straight into Kidderminster's first team?
Definitely, and I'd have to say my coaches at Sutton Coldfield played a good part in that as well, because at the time I didn't realise that. So I would when I went straight to the first team at Sutton Coldfield, because I was 17, 18 at the time, and I'd play with them on a Saturday, and being that young, kind of you recover quite quickly. So I'd play with them on a Saturday, and then my assistant manager had a team on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So men's team on a Sunday, and they're like, I was the youngest by far in that team, but I'd go and play against men.
Yeah.
And because in the youth team, I went from bullying everyone to then being bullied when I went to the first team. So that, I think that stood me in good stead, because it was like, right, I'm playing against players here who are a lot bigger, stronger than me, got years on me in the gym, etc. So that's something I've got to learn a way of how to play against them. And a lot of them would comment like, you're how quick are you kind of thing. So I'd probably try to use my pace, but then at the same time, there's times where I'll come up against a player who was probably similar speed to me, and I'd have to learn to try and use my body and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that I want to say a thank you to my coaches, the coaches at Sutton Coldfield for that, because they helped in terms of realizing, right, he's probably got something there, but he has to go and experience the men's game to be able to kick on. And thankfully I'll be able to do that.
For the first couple of clubs you played for, you had quite a rich vein of form. You scored quite a lot of goals. What did that do for your confidence at that level? Did it make you feel like you can play at a higher level at the time? Did you always feel grounded? Were there people around you to keep your feet on the ground at the time as well?
Yeah, I think I've always been quite grounded. I think I can actually remember the first time there was like a bit of interest. So we've come in, it was around December time, and I was at Kidderminster, so like I said, scored quite, started the second season. And I think I'd scored quite a few goals in a short period of time. And it was actually, I think our goalkeeping coach at the time had been at Northampton as well. So he'd been with us, it was Tim Flowers. So he'd been with us, and then he'd gone to Northampton. I think they asked his opinion on me. I think he's given them like a good reference, and I think we come in after training and got pulled in by the managers like, we've turned down 3 bids from Northampton, or whatever it was, or a couple of bids from Northampton. And then it's come up on religiously, to this day I still watch Sky Sports News, and it popped up on Sky Sports News, and I was like, that's me, like, do you know what I mean, kind of thing. But so that, to be honest, that was quite weird. That was quite strange seeing that.
Yeah.
but then you do quickly realize like there's a lot of talk of this club's interested, that club's interested, and people are trying to give you advice and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard at the time because you know what you want to do, but then there's so many different voices. It's hard to know which one to listen to.
Yeah.
But like I said, with the managers I have had previously, I think I've had good advice in terms of, right, you just concentrate on you, keep doing well. If you keep doing well, then more interest will come. So yeah, that I've always think I've been quite level-headed as well. So that's always helped in a way. And yeah, I think when you do get a lot of attention, it can be easy to kind of switch off or switch your attention and from what you're doing, and you can get your head turned a bit, especially if there's an agent maybe in your ear saying, you know, this club, if you keep doing this, you keep scoring, or whatever, this club will offer you this much when you're maybe on this much, like you're on this much, this club can offer you maybe this much. So little things like that, you know, can play a part. But that's what I think you do need good people around you and good advice. And that would probably be my advice to like younger players in terms of make sure you've got people around you that you trust and you can always kind of confide in. And then, you know, the biggest thing is playing on the pitch, and if you do that, everything else take care of itself.
Yeah. And you moved to quite a few clubs, but you know, you found yourself in the last couple of clubs you've been at, Forest Green currently and at Newport, you found yourself back in form again, even into your 30s. Do you find that a lot of players are written off a bit too early? And do you think that, you know, actually, you know, I can go and play into my 40s? We spoke to Jason Lee recently, and he was talking about, you know, he never writ himself off and played into his 40s. Do you think you can go for that long?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I seen a stat yesterday where there's 4 or 5 players that were mentioned in Silver Football League now. Kevin Elson, there's Peter Clark, Wes Houlihan, Joby McAnuff, players who are well into their late 30s and early 40s. And like I said, I came into the game probably a little bit later. So yeah, it's something I look at and I think I feel as fit as ever. So I just want to play as long as possible. I think everyone says that, don't they? But I do generally want to play as long as I can, and think of try to take care of myself in terms of off the field to make sure and give myself probably the best chance to be able to do that. Listen, I think everyone knows, and from what players that have retired always say, as soon as they finish, you know, you miss it. So I'm going to try and obviously play as long as I can, and yeah, try and enjoy it as much as I can while I can.
I think conditioning, recovery, and nutrition plays a massive part in the game now. When maybe if we look back 20, 30 years, even at the top, like the players weren't looking after themselves. But now, going down even in the non-league, you've got players that they're getting sports nutrition plans, they've got physios, they've got S&C coaches. How much of a role do you think that's played a part of keeping you at the top of your form?
Massive, yeah. Coming from, like I said, non-league background and stuff, I probably didn't know how to kind of look after myself that much in terms of off the pitch and keeping myself in the right condition and stuff. But yeah, obviously you get the experience and you do come across like the sports scientists stuff. They're on their job and they know that the best conditions is to keep a player on the pitch, and by doing that, you got to keep them fit. So they give you those conditions and they give you that help. Sometimes you're like, oh, I've got to do this, I'll do that. But if you do realize, oh, it's keeping me fit, it's keeping me on the pitch, so I've got to do it. So yeah, it does play a massive part. And when you do see the players that do play to their late 30s, etc., early 40s, you realize and you hear them talk, and that's always a massive part of it. You can see they're still physically fit, and it's no coincidence that they play that long.
You mentioned when you were a teenager how you go play on a Saturday and a Sunday because your body recovered that quickly. Obviously, as you're now going into your 30s, recovery does take a lot longer. Do you have your own specific recovery regime that you follow, or do you follow something by the club?
Yeah, just probably my own, to be honest. The club, obviously, we go in and we recover with the club, but I always try and add to that. And during lockdown, I dabbled in it a little bit, but during lockdown, I really got into doing yoga, so that was kind of incorporated into my routine.
Yeah.
So just doing that and just making sure I stretch off as much as possible, being kind of how tall I am and stuff as well. I think it helps it to keep stretching as much as possible. Stretch off, and just kind of the little things like rehydrating, your ice baths, just the little extras that you can get. I find they do make a difference. So for me personally, even like the just little things. I think a couple of years back, I invested in a normal tech recovery system as well, the compression recovery system.
Yeah.
And that was something I found that helped me. So just little things. I think if there's anything, I think that, because sometimes if you make like an investment like that, if it helps you on the pitch, which is your profession and your job, then it's a good investment. And just doing the little things and little 1%ers that make the difference for me personally. And the last couple of years, I've touched wood been, I've not missed. You can probably count on one hand the amount of games I've missed, and I'd definitely say in terms of the way I've probably incorporated my recovery routine has been a part of that.
And experience is invaluable in this, especially in the pro game. And this season, you're having a phenomenal goal scoring season. You've scored 16 goals already. Is there any bit of advice that you would give a young guy starting out his journey as a centre forward, or even if you could go back and tell a younger version of yourself something that you've picked up and learned over the time that you wish you knew when you were younger?
Probably simplify your game.
Yeah.
I think if you're good at something, don't complicate it and try. And sometimes coaches and managers do want you to improve, so they try and add things to your game.
Yeah.
But I think if you're really good at something, then I think a good manager will use your strength rather than going, right, he's got this weakness, let me try and build on this weakness. It's different if you've maybe got something that you see and you think, oh, you can develop that into something else. But if someone's got a really good strength, don't try and change them from what they are into something else. So yeah, I think that basically, just if you know you've got a strength, kind of stick to that, not stick to that strength, but be that good at that strength where you'll be able to make a difference on the pitch and make a difference for your team. And that'd probably be my biggest advice, is just focus on what you're good at and then be that good at it where teams go, right, I need this kind of person, I need that attribute in my team, I need someone who can do this, and you tick that box, you're in.
Because I think now with youth development especially, you're seeing coaches that are trying to make a complete player in every position.
Yeah.
And you tend to get players now where they haven't really mastered anything. They're a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
You look at, I think what started that trend was maybe the Spanish team, when you saw everybody was comfortable on the ball, everybody was quick possession, quick in transition. But realistically, to get to that level, you're going to have to be an outstanding player. And it probably is a really good bit of advice that you master something, that you become phenomenal at one specific thing that can take you through your career.
I've had a few young lads that I've spoken to, I've come across in the last couple of years, and they're really good technically. But then you say to them, well, what's your best position?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, they know where they want to play, but for whatever reason, maybe the team doesn't play with that formation. Or they've been played in a number of positions.
Yeah.
And then you know what it's like when it comes to the manager picking a team. He's like, well, I've got this player who can play here, here, here. So when there's injuries, they'll put you in to fill in.
Yeah.
But then when there's someone who specializes in those positions, they're playing. So, and it's a dilemma. You can be a really good utility player, so to speak. But if you're mastered, like I said, if you're mastered in that one position, then the manager's going to go, right, I need this pick that player.
I mean,
Was it
Um,
difficult for a young player because adaptability is massive and it's hugely important. Players do
Yeah.
need to adapt to be able to play in different systems, different formations, different
Yeah.
roles and responsibilities. But on top of that as well, they do kind of need to be able to specialize at something
yeah.
for them to go further in the career.
Yeah, definitely. I think, listen, you got the players who can do that. There's a few players who can play really well in a couple of positions, but I think you need to kind of not have one, but have maybe one that's maybe your strength.
Yeah.
So you give yourself more of a chance to progress in that position. But yeah, I think there's some players that I've come across that have obviously could play in 3 or 4, 5 positions, and from their own frustrations where they've been moved about, and then they know like if there's a change to the team or whatever, then they know they're coming out because maybe they're okay in all these positions, but not great in one. Where you'll have someone who'll be great in that position, and then because they're great in that position, they'll play. But yeah, like I said, adaptability is something obviously as well, because the nature of the game, there's going to be injuries, etc. So you do need players that can do those kind of roles. But me personally, I'd rather be great at one thing to know that I can play the full season maybe in my preferred position.
So you touched on something that was really, important for us, because often we ask people who come on, what was their it factor? What was the thing that took them into, what they became today? And, people often go down the path, say, you've either got it or you haven't got it, and, what was that thing that you specialized in, that skill that you can say separated you from the rest?
I'd probably say, my kind of, I always, like, on the playground, even on the playground, so I was probably the one they used to call me like I don't know, like we had like little game, we had like little nicknames growing up, and it was like you had the magician who was like the 10, wherever it was. You had the steamroller who was like, we had a centre mid who just used to run through people, and for me it was like I was like, oh, the finisher kind of thing. So probably I always enjoyed getting in and around the box, trying to like score goals and stuff. But it was also, I was quite hyper as a kid, so I'd be like running around like giving that energy, and kind of never giving up, never like letting the defender rest kind of thing. And I think that's a thing that kind of probably took me into the professional game, because a lot of players I grew up playing with maybe might have been more technically gifted than me, or more talented than me, but I always wanted to carry on. So when I played like Sunday League, I always wanted to keep playing. Whereas a few of the boys I played with, when it got to like 15, 16, I was like, oh, done playing kind of thing. So it was probably that, really, to be honest, just my kind of drive, and knowing that I wanted to make it, mentally, like, right, I'm going to keep playing, just no matter what. Even if it's just, like I said, it was just like non-league, I was always going to give my all, and have that drive to kind of try and outwork people, and I think that's probably took me a long way.
Looking into the mindset of a professional centre forward, when you're you're in the tunnel, you're about to go out, what is on your mind? Have you got an obsession for scoring goals? Is your main focus on getting in the right positions? What is your main focus before a game?
For me, scoring goals is great, but always just to help the team.
Yeah.
And it's such a thing to say, isn't it? Like, oh yeah, you're just all about the team, or whatever. But I genuinely want to help the team. So I think I do quite a lot defensively. So coming back for set pieces, etc., and trying to help out there with my height. But yeah, just trying to help the team. So especially this season, I think I've thrived off the responsibility of trying to be the one maybe getting on the end of crosses, and we have got quite a creative team who do that, who create quite well. So do thrive of just trying to help the team in whichever way possible. So my role in this team is, like I said, to try and get on the end of things in the box, and be that focal point. So I always just try to be that target, that what's the word?
Outlet.
Outlet, yeah, that outlet. Just someone, if the boys are in trouble or whatever, they know I'm there to bounce off, or just to help them if they need. So yeah, just that's what I go off, really, just trying to help the team wherever possible. Obviously, goals is probably, as a striker, is probably the best way to do that. But whatever I'm needed for, I'll try and do that. If it means trying to press defensively, trying to get back in and help out your mate or whatever it is. Yeah, just trying to help the team to be successful.
What system are you playing this season?
We've played a few. So we've played a few. We've had a lot of 3-5-2. Played a couple of. We played like 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
We played similar 4. It's like 4-3-3, isn't it? So yeah, we've played a few different systems, but mainly 3-5-2 this year.
What's the main difference between playing in a front two or playing as a single striker?
In a front two, you kind of. I'm still probably the one that stays central mainly, and I'll have one of the lads who will be our second striker, but he's really clever and he'll drop into the 10 role. Yeah. But to be honest, my role doesn't really change that much, especially with the ball. It's kind of stay the width for the box and then be that focal point and be that focus really there. And then the rest of the players can obviously do their magic. But yeah, probably more without the ball, where we've got to drop in on maybe on a deep line midfielder or press up, both press on the centre halves, or show them onto the fullbacks. But yeah, to be honest, my role, whether in a 2 or I'm in a 1, it doesn't change massively with the ball. More probably without the ball.
In a normal week, how often would you practice finishing? Is it something that you would do on a daily basis where you just get a bag of balls? Do you work with the wingers? Do you work with the goalkeepers? Is it something that you focus on week to week?
Depends. So see, with the games that we've had, it's quite hard to get as much as we'd want in. But if we had a free week, it'd be probably 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
But now when you've got probably games, it's probably more once a week. If you've got like a Tuesday game, because you've got like a Saturday game, then the Monday is the focus on kind of recovery and getting the shape for the next game. And obviously you're playing Tuesday, and you've got your down day Wednesday, Thursday. You're back in recovering again, and then Fridays like again shape again, and you might get that chance to do a bit of finish on the Friday. But yeah, it varies really. Normally it will be a group of strikers that will do the finishing, but there's times where we'll do crossing and finishing with the wingers as well. But mainly it's kind of the group of strikers will do finishing in and around the box, which is quite good.
Do you work on patterns of play or anything like that as well, or is it kind of just more about shape?
Yeah, we do work on patterns of play quite a lot. Managers really like Mark Cooper. I think it's a really, really good coach. It's probably someone, no disrespect to the previous managers I've had, but probably someone who maybe I'd worked with earlier in my career. I could have seen myself improving even more, because the way in which he coaches, everything he says, or there's rarely anything he says that I disagree with. You kind of, and he asks you questions that gets you thinking, and you do feel like a shooter. You feel like a shooter in the game again, and I think he's really good in terms of the way he coaches and the way his philosophy on football. And he's a manager that wants to play good football, but not just for the sake of playing good football. He wants to do it in the right way, or the way he sets up and the way he looks at playing against other teams, and he rarely gets that wrong. So it's we do a lot of pattern of play, but it's always in preparation for what the other team will bring, but then focusing on what we're good at and exploiting them.
How important do you think that relationship is between the coaching team and the playing staff?
Massive. You've got to trust the manager. You've got to buy into what he's doing. And like I said, the way he coaches and the way he sets up it, when you see and when he says things and you watch the clips of the other teams, maybe, and you see what the reason he's saying to do certain things, you're like, straight away you buy into it, because you're like, right, he's right. So yeah, it's important, definitely important, because you want to play in a team where you feel you've got a direction and everyone knows their job or knows their role, and they've got their own creative scope in that, and that's what that manager gives us.
And obviously, not naming names or clubs, have you ever been in a dressing room where perhaps the players haven't trusted the coaching staff and it's kind of maybe the manager's lost the dressing room?
I don't think I've ever been in a club where the manager's lost the dressing room, but I'd definitely say I've been in a club where maybe players don't agree with the style of play that we're playing. And then the players still try, but then you'll have players obviously who want to play in a certain way, and they'll try to play the way the manager wants them to play. But if there's that disconnect between that, then it just happens sometimes. You know, that just happens in football. So it's definitely been in clubs where that's happened. And listen, it's happened before, and it's probably happening right now with certain clubs. But you've got to be professional in your job, and you first and foremost have pride in your profession and represent yourself as well. First and foremost, you represent yourself. So if you're not, if so-called manager loses the dressing room, that's a mark on you, because no matter what the manager's doing, you've got pride, and you've got to show professional pride in yourself and perform for yourself, because you're always representing yourself when you go out on the pitch. And if you want to get a club in the future, etc., you might be out of a job or whatever, or out without a club soon, and people might look at that in how do you conduct himself in a certain time. So you've always got to make sure that you conduct yourself in the right way.
Because I think a lot of players I've spoken to, managers do the homework, and clubs may ring around your last few clubs and ask, what's he like? What's he like around the dressing room? Is he a good person? And if you carry that stigma of being somebody that disrupts the dressing room, you know, you might see yourself losing out on a contract and falling out of the game. Do you see yourself going down the coaching pathway?
It's a tough question. Like, no, not a tough question. I did my Uefa B last year, Uefa B with the Welsh FA. So it's something I wanted to explore, because probably if you asked me this 3 years ago, I will no, don't think I will go into coaching. But the older I got, I started to look at the game differently, in a different way, and I found myself probably speaking to managers a little bit more and wondering why they did certain things, and it is something I've looked at, and maybe not as a manager, but I think maybe coaching, maybe younger age groups or one-to-one coaching. I think it's something I think maybe might suit me personally a little bit more. I've done, like I said, I've done my Uefa B, and obviously with COVID, not been able to do a little bit more coaching that I probably wanted to do this year, to carry that on. But it's something that I'm thinking about. It's obviously, I think I'm at the minute I'm concentrating on football and trying to have a strong end to the season, and I am thinking obviously of the future, but that's taking my focus right now.
At the moment, I'm currently an academy coach in Middlesbrough, and I'm just finishing my A license.
Yeah.
And one thing I would say is that my coaching journey has given me a much better understanding of football as a whole.
Yeah.
And I believe that if youth players were to get the coaching badges at the start of their career, it might help them have a greater understanding of the game and have better relationships with the coaching staff. Do you think that's something that could be implemented?
100% agree with that. Because even last year, like I was at Newport doing my when I was doing my Uefa B, and we had a couple of coaches. So our assistant manager was an educator, so he was taking us on a course. There's 8 lads that did the course, and I remember we were doing one of the sessions, and he was obviously explaining the work that went into doing it and the reasons why we're doing it. And I had a really long conversation with him. I was like, oh, didn't even think of that. Didn't even think of like setting up the way you set up the session and the reasons and all the things behind it. And he was like, yeah, you think we just like to laugh thumbs kind of thing. But it does give you an appreciation of what the coaches have to do and their homework and all the extra work they have to do behind the scenes to get session ready and to plan for the lads. Because we just turn up, don't we? Let's turn up with our boots and and everything's good to go. So yeah, I think that's something, like you said, if younger players could be implemented with younger players, because so not everyone's going to make it professional or make it into the game. So I think it's something that should be encouraged, where younger players can do that alongside, and it will help their career, definitely.
Yeah, I'll probably take it back a couple of years. You played Man City in the FA Cup game. You know, how did it feel playing against those level of players? And did you feel like, you know, I belong on this stage? You know, did it get an extra bit out of you when you was on the pitch?
And that was the most mental experience. That's one of those experiences where you are probably pinching yourself.
Yeah.
Wow, like what like how are we playing against these? At the time, obviously, I think they were Premier League champions, and they were coming down to play against us, and like they put obviously a really strong team, and it was literally on the pitch. I'm thinking, like, you are in awe for like the first 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah,
but we actually started the game really well and should have went 1-0 up.
Yeah.
But they were just a different level. I remember giving an example. There was a ball that got kind of cleared or volleyed like really high up in the circle. The pitch wasn't the best.
Yeah.
And as it's coming down, you can see our midfielder thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna rat him here. I'm gonna get after." It was David Silva, get after David Silva, and kind of it's kind of one he can press.
Yeah.
And in one, David Silva's held him off.
Yeah.
Seen him coming, held him off, and brought the ball down and turned all in one. And it was one of those where you're like, wow, like for a split second, you're like actually admiring it.
Yeah.
Even though you're in the game. And it was just like, it was a different level. It was tactically, attitude as well. That was something I'd say, like their attitude was spot on. You expected maybe them to be a bit, I don't know, big time, whatever it is. And rightly so, because of how good they were, but they were full of respect for us from the moment the draw got made to the moment they were on the pitch after the game. And yeah, it was just kind of a good insight into what it takes to get to that level, because they had to work hard first and foremost. They showed us that, you know, you're a lower league team, but they showed us the respect and all that. Right, we're all professionals. We know that you're after our scalp, but we've got to work hard and show why we're the level we're at. And yeah, they were just a level apart to us. They were top class.
Who's playing at the back that day for Man City?
Otamendi, Stones, Zinchenko, and Danilo.
That's not bad, is it?
Not bad at all. Though Zinchenko probably spent most of the game in midfield. I couldn't get my head around that first. They had this system where he went into the midfield, and then Fernandinho dropped back into the back line.
Yeah.
So you didn't know, like our winger didn't know whether to go with Zinchenko or to pass him on, and yeah, it was really, really good experience. Really good experience.
Man City's the only team in the world that play with inverted fullbacks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's it was definitely like an eye opener for me. It's something I'd never come across in terms of playing against a team with that. So, but yeah, it was a good experience, definitely, for sure.
Is there anything that you learnt from those players that you've taken into your game as well?
Don't know, but just that attitude. I think if they could come down to our pitch at the time, like I said, it wasn't a great pitch, and show the attitude and application that they did, and then their quality shone out because of that. Then listen, players at our level have to do that every week in, week out. That's the minimum you expect anyway, obviously from professional, but it's to make sure that you do apply yourself to every situation. It might be we might draw someone from a non-league club in the FA Cup, but you've got to show that same application day in, day out, to be able to stay as professional, because someone's always after your shirt. There's that many players, there's that many young players, and nature of the game now with COVID, there's that many players who are out of contract. If you're not on your game, or week in, week out, or year in, year out, then you know you could easily fall out of the game.
Yeah, and a little bit away from football, we've recently done a course together.
Yeah, we have.
To become
man.
An effective board member
Yeah.
How have you found that? And do you see yourself? A lot of people talk about the lack of black managers, black coaches, but there's also a lack of representation on the board. Do you ever see yourself getting on the board one day?
Yeah, I think you can vouch for this. It was tough, wasn't it? It was tough, man.
Yeah, man.
It was a lot of information, wasn't it? Kind of thrown at you in a 6-month period. Enjoyable as well because we had like a really good cohort, a really good group that bounced off each other. But yeah, it was a lot of information. Like I said, the exam was quite tough, but it was really enjoyable to see such a diverse group all wanting to kind of learn and progress, and to try and make change. So yeah, it's something I've always. If you asked me to start my career, it was like after football. Initially, I was just like, I want to do something academic within football if I could.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'd love to be a part of change. So yeah, in the future, definitely, I could see myself being on a board. I think experience is obviously the biggest thing, isn't it now? In terms of we've learned a lot and taken a lot of information in, but it's then being able to apply that information. But the only way to do that is to get the experience and the chance to implement that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll jump on our board one day and challenge us and get that experience and take it up to the top.
I see. I'll be auditing you soon, man. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. So, are there any other issues that you'd like to raise awareness about that are going on right now currently?
Listen, I think the biggest one is obviously the racism issue that's keeps rearing its head for whatever reason. It's difficult. It's very difficult to kind of wake up to or to watch every day. The issue with Glenn Kamara last week, Kamara Roof, who I grew up with, in fact, and to see the senseless. I don't think I have to say it's senseless, isn't it? The stuff that's going on, and it's like you said. It's like we keep saying it changes to be made, but the authorities need to crack down on this massively, because it's just what they're doing is just they're not really doing anything, to be honest. They're basically doing what we could do, just put out a statement or give a little fine, but what's that actually doing? It's doing nothing. So they need to really take a strong stance with everything that's going on, to make sure that it's eradicated, because I think some of these people are actually putting out the comments are actually just doing it for attention, because you realize that every day you wake up and it's happened, or someone, you're watching a game and you think, oh, he might not be having the best game, and straight away my thought is, you know what, he's going to get racially abused tomorrow. And you shouldn't be thinking like that. But then I think on the flip side, you probably have people going, oh, he's having a bad game, you know what, if I send racial abuse to him or send this emoji to him, it'll pop up on the news tomorrow, and they're probably saying to their friends, oh, that was me, that was me. And I don't know if it's the whole social media generation, or I don't know what it is, but social media platforms need to do more. Authorities need to do more. There's a big argument at the minute with taking a knee, whether it's right to take the knee or to not take the knee. My viewpoint at the minute is I've stopped taking a knee, because not that I think it served its purpose, but we're taking a knee every week, and it's visually, we're showing solidarity, we're showing that we're together. But are the authorities doing enough to show that they're standing with us by giving tougher punishments? I don't think they are.
I think Les spoke about it. He said, it was a good gesture to start with. Now it's kind of lost its meaning, and we want actions to follow it. And you've got so many great players that have come through, the Andy Coles, the John Barnes. And do you think they're highlighting their achievements enough, or is the highlight of the abuse that they're suffering overshadowing their achievements and causing this vicious circle to keep going around?
Oh, 100%. And I think even sometimes the news platforms, I know they're there to obviously try to help the narrative of and help narrative in terms of equality and no, like say no to racism and all that. But then we all know that negativity sells more than positivity. So
Yeah.
when the racism comes up, it's the first thing that you see all the time.
Yeah.
And so definitely, yeah, I think their actual achievements and their accolades should be talked about more. But one thing I do think is important in this, and regardless of whether you believe taking a knee is important or not, or it serves its purpose or not, the conversation is still open, and that's what I think is still important. So people talking about why we're taking a knee, or people that are like myself who don't want to take a knee, the conversation is still open. So people are asking why you're not taking a knee, and then you can have that conversation and go, this is what I believe, and you're still talking, because it still needs to be kept into the forefront until something is drastically changed in terms of the authorities clamping down properly. Because if we just keep taking a knee initially, I think it might just be brushed under the carpet. We're doing something, and then it gets forgotten about. It can't be forgotten about. It has to be kept at the forefront. So the authorities know this issue is not going away. It's unacceptable. Racism is unacceptable at any time, but people keep going on. This day and age, it doesn't matter. It's unacceptable at any time, but in this day and age, we've now got more of a voice, and that change needs to come with our voice.
Yeah, I understand. Hopefully, people like yourself who are putting yourself in a position now to try and challenge, can get your voices out there. Like you're a very well-spoken man. A lot of footballers get stick for not being very intelligent, but I've watched a lot of your interviews. I've seen you over the years, and you articulate yourself so well. And it's, if anybody's going to make a change, it's people like yourself that can represent us going forward. So, the conversation, like you said, it's still open, and I hope that everyone's views can be heard from their point of view, and racism can be tackled in the best way.
The responsibility of everybody, isn't it? Not just the responsibility of footballers. It's not just the responsibility of black footballers. It's the responsibility of everybody in society to make this change. And I don't think there's enough people taking that responsibility. And they were talking about this on TalkSport the other night, that once upon a time, racism was back page headlines. Now it's a little snippet in the newspaper because it's happening so often. It seems to be happening every single week. That's almost losing its shock factor. And because it's losing its shock factor, there's now people out there that aren't afraid to send these messages, because again, it's just another one. It's just another one. And I think that needs to be addressed as well. It can't lose its shock factor. It needs to be tackled head on. And it can't just be a case of, oh yeah, it's now just a part of society. It's now just a part of game. It can't be a part of anything.
Yeah. 100% agree with that, Carl, and I think that's where, like I said, the authorities need to come in and go. If they came in and they're right, if someone's found guilty or of doing that, so for example, Instagram go, you have to put your details in your passport or whatever it is before you sign up. It's a tough one, because you don't want people to then go, right, because it, like, only doing it because they're obviously racist anyway. Keeping those views and hiding those views, because we need to educate those kind of people. But at the same time, you need to they would obviously definitely think twice about voicing those views openly and publicly. But if the authorities do clamp down and give a big punishment, a fine or imprisonment, whatever it is, I'm sure they'd think twice about doing what they're doing, and at the same time they'd think there's a reason why it's such a tough sentence or such a tough punishment for it, and it's because it's wrong. It's like anyone that doesn't think it's wrong is, listen, that I don't know what to say for them. And people do need educating, but that's where the authorities need to bring in those punishments, so that people know that you can't do these things. Otherwise, they think, oh, I can do it and I'll get away with it, because the punishment doesn't match the crime.
So I think some people, what what the kind of the missing the point of for me is that yes, you've got the guys that are sending this out on social media. They're a tiny part of the problem. The percentage of the people that are putting out on social media doesn't even compare to the percentage of people who think it's acceptable just to have these jokes and have this attitude in their own social groups, in their own household, in their own societies. And that's the root of it, because these people that put the messages on social media have come from there. If you tackle it at its root, you won't have this end game of footballers and celebrities and any walk of life. Really, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're being abused because of your race, it's not acceptable. And they need to tackle it from the root of it rather than looking at the end of it, which is a footballer getting the message, you know. And that's sometimes the only thing that's making it into the media is the average person that maybe is receiving this sort of abuse every single day, and they don't get the platform to talk about it because they're not famous.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's like I say, it's equality overall. Everyone's born equal. Everyone's born the same kind of way, and that's where we've got to keep pushing that message. Got to keep pushing. I've seen a thing the other day where I think in Wales they're going to start putting in the black with Black history, more like positive Black history moments and figures. Start teaching that in the curriculum, and that's something that's a small step, but a really good step, a really big step, really, if you think about it. Because straight away that's where education, I think a lot of things that you probably learn as a kid is when you do hear something as a kid, it sticks with you forever. So if we can start doing that, because I think there's some people that might be unfortunately too far gone, but it's going to be a long fight. But like I said, if everyone does come together, and then I'm sure we can hopefully achieve something, not in our lifetime, I don't believe, but in future generations.
Education is key. In educating in schools, maybe, you know, we'll see a huge change, a generational change, and in 20 years time, you know, this will be eradicated. And I think that's all we can hope and pray for. But like you said, there's people that are too far gone. There's generations of people now where no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you will not change their mindset. Which is horrible. You know, it shouldn't be like that. Unfortunately, that's the reality.
That's it. It's so unfortunate because people get triggered by, a lot of people can get triggered by just something that's so insignificant. Like you said, like taking a knee, like Black Lives Matter. Like, I'm not for the political movement or any political movement. I'm just for equality in Black Lives Matter. It's my life matters as much as another race, or everybody's life matters exactly the same. That's the message that we're putting here. How can you judge someone just because they've got a different skin tone to you? It's crazy. For me, it's crazy. But unfortunately, that's the world we live in. But if we believe enough in it, and like I said, people fight enough for it, then if we get enough together, and that was a big thing, I think, with the marches that happened during lockdown, that really powerfully moved me, was the fact that the amount of people that turned out, and the amount of people that do care, and the amount of people that are fighting for equality and for the right causes. So if those people that are fighting for that can sit together, then I think we'll definitely make inroads and move in the right direction.
Brilliant. I think we'd just like to thank you for your time today and let you get on with your child-free day and your day off. I know they're the best days. It's been an amazing, insightful interview about your career coming from Jamaica to the UK, and how you've made it into professional football, and just listen to some of your opinions on, you know, coaching, on bigger issues as well. So thank you very much.
No, it's been a pleasure, Carl and Sean. Obviously, really nice to have a chat with you. I just feel like I'm chatting to my mates, and you can't show a mate anyway. It's nice to meet you, Carl, and it's been a really good chat. And yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
No problem. And hopefully I'll see you at graduation, my friend.
Hopefully, man. Still wait for them results. Anyway, them results come through.
Have a good one. Have a good day.
Cheers, you too, man.
See you later.
Bye bye.